Well, if you're a Sonos user and you're fed up with it, you just can't handle this anymore.
And you haven't bought like a dozen speakers
Even
around
if you
your
have,
house.
maybe it's time to sell them because we've got some new products that you could use instead, potentially. It's not exactly the same thing, but it's similar. So we've talked about this company before. I've never looked it up to see how I'm actually supposed to pronounce it. I'm going to keep calling them WiiM because it's funny. W-I-I-M.
That makes sense too.
It does make sense, but it also sounds funny and fun. So WiiM has 2 new devices that they're launching, and they both sound like nice upgrades to their existing devices. And these are devices that are, I guess they call them like network streaming, audio streaming devices. And so it's kind of like a Sonos without a speaker. Like a Sonos, but bring your own speakers is kind of the way these work. And I'll get into the specifics of how they work because it's 2 different devices that do work differently. So there's, but let's talk about the things that are common between them first. So both of these offer you the ability to use AirPlay 2, Chromecast, DLNA, Spotify Connect, like all of those sorts of very common streaming protocols and solutions that you're probably already using in some way or another to cast music around your house. These devices support all of that stuff. These new devices have new DACs, digital audio converters in them, 32-bit, 384 kilohertz. If you're an audiophile type person, you know that those are very good numbers that should, in theory, produce very high quality audio. And in the case of the amp that we're going to talk about, it even has a much better signal to noise ratio. So there's your other like audiophile buzzword, buzz phrase, I guess, signal to noise ratio that you might care about. The other thing that both of these bring to the table, because they are network streaming devices, is they have Wi-Fi 6E, pretty much the latest common Wi-Fi standard. There is Wi-Fi 7 technically now, but 6E is the more common thing that you might have around your house already. And they also support Bluetooth 5.3 so that you could connect directly from your phone over the latest Bluetooth protocol. So that's what they both have. Now, the 2 different devices, there's the WiiM Ultra, and this is a box where the idea is that you would take this thing and you can connect it to other devices. You can plug for the first of any of WiiM's products. You can plug a record player into this. You can plug basically anything that has a standard RCA jack or an optical cable or even an HDMI eARC cable into this thing. And then to be able to hear from any of those sources or from your like AirPlay 2 or Chromecast sort of thing, then you plug it into something like an AV receiver or an amp because it won't connect directly to your speakers. So if you already have an AVR with awesome speakers, maybe a surround sound setup or just a really nice stereo setup, there are multiple ways to connect this thing to those. That new device, the other cool thing about this one is it has a 3.5-inch touchscreen on the front of the box. And these boxes actually look really nice. This doesn't look like a junky piece of plastic that you really just want to hide behind your components. It actually looks pretty nice. And I think the touchscreen on the front also adds something to the design experience. The touchscreen can be used for controlling things, although controlling things on a touchscreen that's that small may not actually be the most practical. But it also will like display album art and stuff, which is kind of cool. So that's the WiiM Ultra, and that's $329. The other device that they announced is the WiiM Amp Pro. So they have the WiiM Amp. This is a newer version that's it's not really that much different than the existing WiiM Amp, but it does have the new DAC. It's got the Wi-Fi 6E. It's got the new Bluetooth 5.3. It has those things. Those are the big differences with this thing, including that better signal to noise ratio. This is an amp, which means you can connect regular like bookshelf speakers or whatever directly to this thing. You don't need another device. You put this thing on your network, you plug your speakers directly into it, and it will power the speakers, and you cast or whatever you want to do to get your music to this. The WiiM Amp Pro, because it's got the amplifiers in it, it's more expensive. It is $369. These are going to be available this summer. We don't exactly know when, but sometime this summer. So, Richard, you're going to sell all your Sonos stuff and buy some speakers and some WiiMs and
No. But these are nice products, and it's interesting to me that their amp is a separate product, and they're not doing what Sonos does and just bundle the two together, like bundle the Ultra with an amp, like have an amp Ultra or something like that would be one box instead of having the need for both of these. But
you don't need both of these.
But what do you mean you don't need both of these?
Like the WiiM Amp Pro basically does all of the things that the WiiM Ultra does, but it doesn't have the touchscreen. And yeah, which is why it's more expensive. Like it's basically the same thing, except it has an amp in it instead of requiring you to connect it to an amp or to connect it to an AVR.
Okay, I misunderstood. And now looking at the pictures here, it makes more sense. But it is weird then that their Pro version doesn't have the touchscreen on it, right? Like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah. When I was typing up my notes, I was like, I have to have this backwards. Like the Ultra has to be more expensive than the Pro, right? And it's not. Yeah, it does feel a little weird. Like, why not add the touchscreen and stuff to the WiiM Amp Pro? Maybe that'll be yet another thing that they release later. The WiiM Amp Ultra Pro for $425 or something.
Okay, well, that's all the more reason for me not to get this, because I clearly don't know how it works and I'd be buying the wrong stuff. But this is, I think, we've talked about their stuff before, and I'm very impressed with the products that they have out. And I think if you're not already kind of locked into something like Sonos or some other system like that, and you want a good quality audio thing around your home, these are really good alternatives.
Yeah, like every time we talk about these, especially on the YouTube videos, we get tons of comments from fans of these devices who just love them. So if you've got some really nice speakers that you really love the sound of, and you just wish you could AirPlay to them, like this is how you do that.